methods they have. It's not like the MMA where they're way more sophisticated. And then injectable ATP everywhere. You know,
Damn,
yeah, it's
dude.
funny.
What?
And beating the drug test is so much fun.
Oh, what would people take? Like, what would they do? Like that? Because here's how the drug testing works in powerlifting in the U.S.
Mhm.
and even IPF. IPF is the highest level. It's all metabolite testing.
Yeah,
So that's easy as hell to get around, isn't it? Like
yeah.
you take stuff to like what would get around that? Would Clomid show up? Clomiphene? What would show up?
Basically, everything that bodybuilders take and powerlifters would take shows up. But I made a video about this, the WIDA approved doping list.
Yeah,
And I listed like 25 compounds that are not on the doping list.
like the
Uh,
tonka leaf and that kind of stuff.
yeah, no, that's just over the counter.
Okay, what are
That's
you
over the
talking?
counter. There's so many drugs that are not listed on there.
That so
Like,
you're telling me you could take ATP, pass the drug test,
mhm,
insulin, you can pass the drug test,
yeah,
GH, you can pass the drug test.
yeah.
Oh my god!
But it also depends on how hard they're testing. So for the Olympics, for example, or international sports, the testing is way more scrutinous, and
Is
it
it
depends on which
futile?
labs they send it to. So we had one time, I think the Hong Kong, no, the Macau Asian Championships, and they sent the samples in to the Beijing testing center in China, and then a lot of people failed because the testing equipment was way more scrutinous because it was developed for the Beijing Olympics in 2008. So it really depends on which lab it gets sent to and how much of a good equipment they have and if they're on par with the testing standard. And that's why when you go to the WADA accredited labs, there's like 20 of them all over the world, and there's always one or two that are not up to par with the testing parameters. Thailand,
Well,
for example, they didn't have testing for 2 years because the lab here was not up to standard, or other stuff. Well, I'm not going to go there, but
WADA is what tests in powerlifting, and they just do the
mhm.
metabolites. So, what other strength supplements would you take? Would clomiphene show up?
Clomiphene is on the list. Yeah, that will show
Okay.
up. Yeah,
How long is that in your system?
I think it's like 4 weeks, five
Okay.
weeks. Yeah, I'd have to check my
So
notes. And again, those
18.
notes are based on they're valid for 2 years ago because I haven't done a prep since, so
So they
might
could
be
take
outdated.
ATP, insulin, GH for strength. What else
Yeah,
would?
yeah, you could do an IV testosterone overnight, or you get a recombinant LH and FSH to increase your and make sure that it's not urine purified. So that's recombinant LH and FSH. You administer that before bed, so it metabolizes in case there's a random doping test. Of course,
That
the
would show
bodybuilders
up.
don't do this, but
That wouldn't show up. LH and FSH.
no, because it's a bioidentical compound.
Your LH and FSH levels would still be elevated.
Yeah, they would be elevated, but it's not detectable in urine. ACG is detectable in urine. So if you get urine purified HMG, human menopausal gonadotropin with LH and FSH, but that's urine purified, then there might be some ACG in there. So people fail for ACG when in reality they took HMG. But there is recombinant LH and FSH out there. It's difficult to source, but it is available.
I loved
And
HMG. It was great. HMG
yeah, it
was
was
phenomenal.
for fertility is great.
I felt
Yeah,
so good on it. I
but
felt so good.
you also have to know what they're going to test for because they don't test for everything. Right? The more they test for, the more expensive it is going to go. So certain labs will only test for steroids, and other labs will test for steroids and the diuretics. But it's
What about
impossible to know.
if you took a base like a test base?
Hmm.
How would that show up?
Yeah, you skew the ratio between testosterone and epitestosterone, and with what is it called? Radio isotopic carbon. Probably butcher that. You can determine what the source of the testosterone is because exogenous testosterone has a little bit different molecular structure in the carbon atoms compared to naturally produced testosterone. So you would be able to detect it. Of course, if you want, you could always homebrew testosterone, epitestosterone in the correct ratio, because a urine sample doesn't give you the serum concentrations. So I'm sure there's a home brewer out there, because epitestosterone is also available, if you search hard enough, that makes test and epitestosterone in a single injection in the correct ratio, allowing you to pass the drug test. It's how far you want to go. Now, bodybuilders are not smart enough to do this.
Well, that's why I see some of these like IPF powerlifters lifting crazy numbers, and everyone's always like assumes they're not natural and they're just like getting around the test. But I'm like, isn't it so freaking complicated to do that that most of them wouldn't even know where to start?
No, if you know the detection time and how to speed up the detection time or the clearance time, then it is doable. You'll still be
Okay.
way stronger, because the anabolic processes are still initiated, right? That's why it takes a while. Even if you take test suspension before you're really full and strong, it will take 2 or 3 weeks of continuously taking test suspension. So that means if you stop test suspension a week before the show, all the processes that test suspension starts would still be active a week
And
later,
then
but test suspension is completely metabolized.
so if you took the suspension a week before the competition, you'd check out.
You
You'd be
pass, yeah,
cool.
3 to 4 days.
So you could take the test. Let's say test base or test suspension.
Hmm.
What about trend base?
No, so those metabolites, they're detectable for way longer.
Trend
They're
base,
detectable for for months.
but test isn't.
No, test isn't. No, so
So you could take the
detection
test.
time is 3 to 4 days.
So let's say you're competing Saturday, you take the test on Tuesday.
Hmm.
You're good to go.
Yeah, I would, assuming your kidney function is 100%, right? You still need to go by kidney function, because with worse kidney function, it means that the metabolites stay in your body longer, because you don't have accurate or proper filtration in your kidneys. So let's, to put it safe, you do 5 days, right? Unless you do a 24-hour urine collection test with inulin clearance to determine if you're filtering properly. Yeah,
So
you could take it 4 days before the contest, and still get all the benefits without the
and
post
then
injection pay.
so if you're let's say you're a natural natural athlete,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like
natural on the day of the show.
yeah, that's what I mean. So let's say you're trying to get around the drug testing. I'm not doing that. I'm literally just freaking curious. I'm probably giving people ideas, but oh, it's all good because I feel like
Oh,
people are
that's
going to.
this has been going on for ages, man. It's
So
nothing new.
you're doing a drug tested competition. You inject your suspension Tuesday. You still reap the benefits by Saturday. You could have injected it all the way up till that point. Like you
Yeah,
could be taking
hmm,
it for weeks. Reap the benefits. Come off Tuesday. You're clear on Saturday.
yeah.
Damn.
And you could even, if you want, you could use other stuff during the meantime, like insulin and growth hormone. Like they have urine checks now where they go by the ratio between the molecular weight of growth hormone, because exogenous growth hormone is, what was it, 23 kilodaltons, and your body produces different kinds, like 22, 23, 24. So they check the ratio, similar to they check the ratio between testosterone and epitestosterone. But not all the labs have the testing equipment for that, or they don't test for it.
And so GH and insulin wouldn't help that much with strength, but the test suspension obviously would. Um,
Well, the insulin, you would be able to, let's say you make a weight class, you use the suspension up until 4 days out, 5 days out, to play it safe. Then you use insulin to load after you've made weight. So now you have bulk, you have strength on your frame. And the growth hormone, yeah, I'm not really exactly sure if that would be applicable for a strength sport, but for a bodybuilding loading protocol, 2 or 3 days before the show, administering multiple shots of growth hormone will give you an athletic appearance like none other. It'll make you look very round.
I have two questions on this, but so and drug tested powerlifting, the weigh in is 2 hours before, so that wouldn't work, but the test suspension
Mhm.
would. Um, what about SARMs? Do
Those
they
are all
have
on
a
the
long
doping list.
injection
Yeah.
time?
No, yeah, most of them have a 3 week. Some of them, I think, SR9, no, GW1516, which is not a SARM, but classified as one. That has a detection time of 5 months.
So the thing you'd really only be able to get away with would be like a suspension or
Test
test
suspension
suspension.
and some sort of HMG or LH and FSH growth
What about
hormone,
what about
bioidentical stuff.
test base?
That's basis in oil.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you want to you subject yourself to the inflammation, then but yeah, you should be able to.
same thing. Okay.
Yeah,
Here
same
and
thing.
then, do you think like what are your opinions on like drug tested competition? Do you think there's validity to it, or do you think a lot of people are cheating?
I think a lot of people are cheating. Um, yeah, well, I helped many of them. I think the
Really?
drug.
This
What?
is so. This dude. This is like the hottest.
That was my whole job.
Here, I got it. This is why I'm talking about this. This is like the hottest topic on my YouTube channel. Like everyone's always
uh,
like, fake natty. We don't believe these. This guy. That guy looks too jacked. We don't believe him. Like this is a big thing. So in powerlifting, there's a lot of skepticism around who's actually because the problem in powerlifting. I'll tell you right now, real quick,
mm,
that the numbers for drug tested are getting very close to the numbers for not drug tested. Right?
oh,
They're very, very close, very close. So people are very skeptical. So I don't know enough. I don't know if these guys have the knowledge to beat this stuff or if they're actually just really good genetically. Like, I don't know. So it's a very touchy, it's a hot.
sure. Give me a call.
What's
So
the powerlifting consultation?
give me a call. I'm gonna raise all the powerlifting, the natty PRs to the drug tested PRs.
Your phone should
So
be going off the hook next
yeah,
week.
yeah, yeah. I'll be able to help. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I have to brush
This
up a
is
little bit on
crazy.
my on the latest knowledge. My cat is going crazy.
So you know,
Um,
in like we can't hear her. It's all good. In
yeah.
like